Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with a late night, early morning edition of the NXT TakeOver 30 review. This is for the 22nd of August, 2020. I hate to admit it, but they had a stellar show. And I hate to admit it, not for the reason a lot of people would think. It's hard when you are so used to a brand failing that they come out with something really, really strong and you miss all the good things about the brand on a regular basis. NXT of the three WWE brands is the most consistent brand right now and has been for several years, but even they go through periods of downturn and all of that. The challenge is the takeover shows always do well. So tonight, everybody wins, and both AEW and NXT put on stellar performances. I do not have nearly the same hope for SummerSlam tomorrow. I don't think that anything on SummerSlam will rival anything on either show tonight. Maybe the Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre match will do something similar. But it's amazing to me that the same company can put out such very different products. Anyway, we move into the review itself. The pre-show has one match, and that is a triple threat number one contenders for the tag team championship match. Breezango, Tyler Breeze, and Fandango versus Oni Lorcan, Danny Burch, and Legado de Fantasma, Raul Mendoza, and Joaquin Wilde. Not much to this in terms of story. They just are trying to set up number one contenders. I'm scratching my head in confusion and wonderment about their choice to put Breezango over here, since the champions had already defeated Breezango beforehand at least once, if not twice, over the past few months. Anyway, Fandango hits a powerbomb on the floor onto many wrestlers in the early stages. Oni Lorcan and Fandango go to battle in ring. Mendoza does a amazing springboard dive to the floor. Just a few moments later, if they're the pre-show, then why are they doing all of this? Also, if they're the pre-show, then shouldn't they be saving a lot for the actual show? Wilde lands a 450 splash for a near fall. Tyler Breeze comes in, cleans house, breaks it up, and he takes out Lorcan with a super kick, and comes out of nowhere with the win. So Breezango and Imperium for the NXT Tag Team Championships down the line. We open the actual show, the show proper, with Finn Balor defeating Timothy Thatcher. Not the move I would have made. Balor's already had his shot on the main roster. Balor did not connect with fans, plus he had injuries in the way that was a build. Not that Timothy Thatcher necessarily is going to connect with fans, but in a situation where we've already given a guy a main roster shot and then you find out it doesn't work, I'm always going to side with the other talent because we haven't given them a full main roster shot yet. Of course, people now say that the main roster doesn't matter because all three shows are on television. However, when you look at viewership, both SmackDown and Raw are bigger than NXT consistently, so they still do have a main roster feel. Anyway, Thatcher finds Balor in his face early. Very good strike trading and hold trading during the early stages of the match. Every person in a wrestling school should watch this for a couple of reasons: intensity, pacing, speed, facials, and overall process. Really well done. Thatcher with stiff but safe strikes throughout the match. uses the single leg and starts working over Balor's left leg and foot for several minutes. Thatcher also does this bit where he covers the nose and face of his opponent while he holds him in a submission move. In a real fight, that's brilliant. If a man can't breathe, he can't fight back for very long. So that's really, really smart. So Thatcher then transitions into a double wrist lock submission and goes back to the throat. Balor is able to slip away from Thatcher and hits him with a basement drop kick. Balor lands a Pele kick, and there's a good bit of selling. So Balor manages to come back up, plants Thatcher with a inverted U-crusher for near fall. He misses his coup de grace finish from the top and takes some time to sell the leg. I wish he'd sold a little longer. He does sell it well, but it seems rushed and abrupt with the amount of time they had available. Him selling for an extra 30 to 60 seconds really would not have made a huge difference in the pacing of the program. Anyway, Thatcher locks on a crab before Balor grabs the bottom rope, and then Thatcher and he grapples some more. Thatcher goes into an ankle lock. Balor rolls out of that and lands a standing double stomp. Then finally lands the coup de grace to win the match. I mean, it's his 12th win at a takeover. That's great. Probably the best pure wrestling match if you like pure wrestling on the program. Maybe of the week, certainly, maybe of the month. But does it make sense completely? No. And is it good for business? That's debatable. But I'd still put Thatcher over since he hasn't had the main roster attempted run. We move into a much different spectacle with the ladder match for the North American Championship. Damian Priest is your new North American champion, defeating Bronson Reed, Cameron Grimes, Johnny Gargano, Velveteen Dream, and somebody's missing from my notes here. I don't know who's missing from my notes. Anyway, I mean, this is every ladder match you've ever seen. I don't like them. I've had friends that have gotten hurt in them. The risk is not worth the reward. Yes, it gets a few pops, but they're not the novelty they were in 1989, 2000. 20 years ago, you could do one or two of these a year, and people would remember it. And people still remember the Hardys and the Dudleys and Edge and Christian. People still remember WrestleMania 17. They won't remember this in a month. Or the average person won't. Anyway, Priest goes after Velveteen Dream early, and Bronson Reed gets new gear for this. Cameron Grimes does comedy in the middle of something that's super serious. Priest gets nailed with a kind of a dive catching Velveteen Dream, pulling him off the ladder. It was a semi-creative thing. Grimes does a Spanish fly, to Gargano on the floor, which was insane looking. I even wondered what the heck they were doing. Dive by Bronson Reed to the outside, which is crazy. Candice LeRae interferes. She is allowed to strike men. Men are not allowed to strike her. I do not like this practice. I do not like it, Sam. I am. And then she grabs Cameron Grimes. I almost said Vic Grimes, but that's a totally different wrestler in a totally different time period. Anyway, pulls him off the ladder. Gargano comes out with a spot off the ladder and then grabs himself a bit of an advantage. And then Gargano climbs to the top, and LeRae climbs and does a rope walk Frankensteiner to the floor, which was insane. Good for her. There are other women on the show, or more accurately, other women who aren't on the show. Why does she get to be out there just because she's Gargano's wife? Bronson splashes Gargano with Relay on his back, and that was super. Just that is memorable. Gargano gets the hand on the belt, does not get the belt, however, gets shoved off. And then Dream ends up chokeslammed, and Priest chokeslams Reed off the ladder, which is insane. Gibson and Grimes did a just insane sunset flip powerbomb type thing. But they did it onto a ladder from atop another ladder, which just, why? You're taking years off your career. Cool spots are cool, but don't get hurt. Like, if this is the way you make your living, I'm sorry, but wrestling fans aren't worth a broken back. They're not worth a broken neck. At some level, you've got to temper this as your way to make a living. Anyway, Reed knocks Dream off the ladder, and then Dream goes flying into the crowd. And then Gargano went to grab the North American championship. Damian Priest reappears, grabs the belt, and is your new champion. Came out of nowhere. The first time in a while I've been surprised by the winner of a match. Spoiler alert, if you haven't watched AEW, skip ahead here 30 seconds, but just as surprised by the Brody Lee win as I am by this. Adam Cole defeats Pat McCaffrey in a match that football fans will like. A match that wrestling casuals may like if they know who McCaffrey is. I'll be honest, I don't watch football. I have no idea who he is. WWE did not do enough for me as a non-football watcher to know who he is. I know he does some stuff for ESPN, but I know it's about football. That's all I know. They did not do enough in terms of making me care about this B-to-C list celebrity. It just doesn't make sense. And I don't understand, if you're going to take the time to put a celebrity on TV, why not put him on Raw, which is a higher rated program? Why not put him on SmackDown, a higher rated program? If you're putting him on your C-level show, perhaps now with AEW Dynamite, it's the D-level show in wrestling in North America. Basically what you're saying is he doesn't have drawing power, so why is he there taking away spots from, contracted talent? I don't get it. I never will. So McCaffrey does do a reasonable showing for himself. Surprise, surprise, he actually does have wrestling training. Trained with Rip Rogers for a while, several years back. Anyway, Cole goes for easy moves early, like a side headlock. There's good selling. There's good trash talking by McCaffrey. So McCaffrey rolls to the floor. He says he's a better human being. Undisputed Era shows up at a point, and McCaffrey does a flip dive onto everyone, which, two minds of this. Number one, you're not a full-time wrestler. Amazing you can do that. But at the same time, if a non-wrestler can do it, why can't Billy Bob in his backyard? You've got to keep something special. And honestly, it's rather insulting for people that didn't know that he had former wrestling training or prior wrestling training, that he can just get in there and like throw his body like it's nothing. It's a bad scene anyway. So Cole sells the heck out of everything and for McCaffrey, and McCaffrey takes the majority of the match. Cole, who's a former champion, is getting beat up by a non-wrestler for several minutes here. And if he's a former champion and wrestling is even supposed to be semi-sport, even if it's 20% sport or 15% sport, shouldn't a former champion be kicking the dog poo out of... yes, and I'm keeping it G-rated, but shouldn't he be totally kicking it around a guy who doesn't have experience? Again, logicals all over the place with this. So McCaffrey does a backflip off the top rope. He sticks it, and then he suplexes Cole. McCaffrey goes to kick a prone Cole in the head, stealing a gimmick from Randy Orton, I suppose. Cole moves out of the way, and he kicks the steel steps instead, which Cole goes after McCaffrey's leg and locked in the figure four. Smart psychology here. Probably the first time in the match where this makes sense. McCaffrey grabbed the ropes. Would have had him submit, honestly. Would have had him tap and admit that football isn't as tough as wrestlers. At the end of the day, if your product is wrestling and you're selling wrestling, then wrestlers should be tougher than any other athlete. Anyway, maybe other than Mike Tyson. But so Cole is kicked in the head. He sells, very close near fall. McCaffrey dives off the top rope. Cole catches him and he catches him with a super kick and locks in the Panama Sunrise for the win. At least the right guy won, but the match was way too long. Io Shirai defeats Dakota Kai to retain the women's championship. For Dakota Kai, who I'm growing to like, but didn't always like, this was her best showing to date, I think. Io Shirai is phenomenal. I've only seen her in the last 6 months. I'm intending, probably next year, to go back and rewatch a lot of NXT stuff I missed over the years, but this is certainly phenomenal. And so Shirai is one of the best strikers. And a lot of people are going to hate on me. They'll say this is racist, but I think now that Kairi Sane has left, moving Io Shirai up to Raw or wherever Asuka's going to be would be good. I know they'll say, okay, two Asian people together, that's racist. No, in theory, if I'm from a foreign country and or a foreign land, in terms of, doesn't even matter what country. If I'm from far away, I'm going to want somebody who thinks like me, looks like me, acts like me, talks like me. And again, I think Io is one of those ones you haven't tainted yet. You've had her on NXT, that's fine, but you haven't killed her, so bring her up and do something with her before, they burn her out. Anyway, Shirai does some tackles early, and they have a slight miscommunication, but it wasn't enough to slow the match down. Gonzalez gets in there, does a distraction spot, and Shirai falls for it, and then Shirai gets into trouble on the apron. Shirai comes back, hard-hitting stuff, knee strikes, other strikes, takedowns with arm bars and the like. And she goes for the running kick in the corner, does Dakota Kai, but Shirai moves out of the way. And then we see a schoolboy attempted. Obviously, that doesn't finish anything, nor should it in a scenario like this. Kai accidentally takes the referee out with a Yakuza kick later in the match. Raquel Gonzalez comes in, hits a chokeslam type maneuver. This leads to a near fall, but not a finish. This should not have been done in this way. Give it a throwaway move. Let it be Raquel Gonzalez does a power slam or a running kick, or don't give away a major move when they haven't fought yet in a discernible match. You're giving away too much too quickly anyway. Obviously, Shirai hits the moonsault. There's no referee. Referee comes back too. And it's just a close call of a finish. Shirai uses a beautiful jumping moonsault to the floor to take out both Kai and Gonzalez. This is a thing of beauty. You can make a gif out of it, I'm sure. She uses another moonsault inside the ring to retain the Women's Championship. Gonzalez goes after Shirai. This brings out Rhea Ripley. Live crowd wants Ripley and Gonzalez. I would be keeping those two apart for as long as I can for an eventual showdown, maybe at the Rumble. Survivor Series is in there too, but I would not blow off Ripley and Gonzalez until I absolutely have to. Your main event is up next. NXT Championship, Keith Lee carrying Cross with Scarlett. Spoiler here, but that's what you're here for. Karrion Kross does, in fact, win the championship. So Lee goes right after Kross, uses his power early, and this has a real intense feel to it. It feels like they're actually fighting, not dancing. Surprised that they gave this 20 minutes. Just surprised because I hadn't seen Karrion Kross go that long in this character or in a very long time, so didn't know he had the endurance to do it again. It's an interesting dichotomy here. Lee tries to mount a comeback, but he gets shot down. There's several massive power moves. Working over the arm as well. Karrion Kross for a psychopath, which there's talk that Tommaso Ciampa is coming back, so maybe Ciampa versus Kross is coming. Because the one thing I don't like about Kross being the champion is they haven't built up enough challengers that there's intrigue in seeing him in that role, but maybe they're going somewhere with this. Anyway, Lee tries to come back. Kross rolls him back into the Kross arm lock. Almost gets submission out of it. Kross into a schoolboy for a near fall. Why Karrion Kross knows a schoolboy or does one is mystery to me. So we go to the arm lock. We see a deadlift by Lee. And then we see a power bomb. That doesn't end terribly well. Lee makes a comeback and nails Kross with a forearm. Lee strikes him, but it's clear that the strikes of Kross have more power or impact than Lee. Kross lands a roundhouse kick and a DDT for near fall. We also see Lee with a vertical suplex for a near fall of his own. We go to the end of the contest. They trade huge lariats. They trade other strikes. Before final series of spots, Kross nails Lee with a backdrop driver, suplex, and Lee basically flies for him, really. Kross locks in his cross jacket submission, but Lee makes it to the ropes. Lee uses Spirit Bomb for a near fall, which is amazing that the Spirit Bomb is something that Kross kicks out of here. We see a backdrop suplex from the second rope for Karrion Kross to be your NXT champion. Scarlett jumps in the ring. She's celebrating with Kross, and they fade to black with the new champion posing with the championship. no match was bad. It's kind of one of those things where I think it suffers from not having a live audience. I think the Takeover thing is where they shine as a company, not just as a brand. But I have no faith that SummerSlam is going to be even a quarter of this show. I also have no faith that Payback in a week is going to be 1/10 of this show. So it's like they do the right things, let's say 30% of the time, but other than that, they disenchant their fans. Anyhow, I will close with this and might be back with some WCCW stuff. If not, definitely tomorrow. We'll be back with SummerSlam tomorrow as well. But until then, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Till next time, everybody.